Hello and welcome. Today, I have the joy to converse with Mike Moulton, a betrayal and divorce recovery coach, crisis strategist, passionate about helping men, especially when they are healing from broken relationships. Thank you so much, Mike, for being here today.
Oh, Francesca, thank you. I'm really excited to be here with you.
Listen, I'm so thrilled because in my experience, I have noticed there are a lot of opportunities to have a health coach specialized in women. When I saw your niche, I was very excited. I am a son's mother. um, well, and I knew that we all need validation and help in healing. We're all God's children and we all need help. So, can you tell me more about how you got to this specific field?
Yeah, I didn't get here in a gentle way. I got here because I had gone through betrayal myself. I'd gone through a divorce, and I understood and understand, the crisis of betrayal and divorce and those things that accompany it. And so when I was really thinking about where could I help people, as I was going through the different types of coaching certifications and everything, I just landed on getting a general professional coach. And then I also got a narcissistic abuse coach recovery certification. And in that, as I was working through my own issues, people kept telling me, Mike, when you're done with this, like you're going to be able to help so many different people. And when I was going through it, I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want
Yeah.
to know that. I didn't want to be in the midst of it. And when I was deciding, I said, I wonder if that's true. I wonder if I could be a help to others. And so I've started diving deeper into it. And really, I'm starting to find that it's a breath of fresh air because when I was going through it, in many of the circles I was in, I was the only man. A lot of women were involved in the recovery process, and a lot of women were going through what I was going through. However, I noticed that there were men because I was in an S-Anon program, which is Sexaholics Anonymous, Anon side of things. So,
Mm.
there's this side of it that it's the individual who's affected by somebody else's behavior. And I was in specific men's groups for that, but I didn't see a lot of healing taking place either. So it
Mm.
was, I kind of said, let me see what happens and let me see, if men are open to being helped. And I believe we are.
There is a key to communication that, once you find it, everybody needs to be heard. Everybody
Mm,
needs to be able to express their feelings and their needs. Sometimes relationships are hard because of that. Or one of the people in the communication and the relationship may keep things for themselves. They may not be able to express their emotions well. And it is important to be able to do that. So
indeed.
I can't imagine, though, being put in a situation like that and not feeling anger, not feeling judgmental and hurt. I mean, how do you process all of this?
Yeah, that's a really great question. When you have that wound of betrayal from the person who's supposed to love you the most, and that you've made a decision, both of you, to put the other person's needs ahead of your own or, within the purview of equality. And when someone steps out of a marriage in that way, the equality, the balance, the equilibrium is off. And for me, I can't speak for all men. I can speak it from a human experience level, right? But I do know that a lot of times the men that I've interacted with, the visceral reaction of anger is extreme. And honestly, it scares ourselves sometimes. Can't control it. And it has to do with that equilibrium. It has to do with that aspect of like, I made decisions that were based on your needs as much as mine. And you've decided that you would put this relationship in jeopardy, our family in jeopardy, our future in jeopardy. Like when betrayal happens, everything breaks and everything's put in jeopardy. And I think a lot of the way that men deal with it is through anger. So, yes, extreme anger. And not only that, but like the emasculation that takes place that like I wasn't good enough. I couldn't satisfy you enough. It really, for men, I think a lot of
Mhm.
times it doesn't go to like the beauty aspect, like what I was externally, but more along the lines of like what I wasn't man enough. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? All of those things come up that like you never expected to come up in that relationship. So yeah, it's a tough situation to be in, and it's a long road of recovery. And, it's taken me roughly 6 years. Actually, I'm one day removed from D-Day.
Mm.
And I'll tell you what, I was talking to my fiance this morning and I said, I didn't even think about it yesterday. Like it was weird. Like it didn't even
Mm.
cross my mind until today. It was D-Day, February 18th, 2020. That's when my life seemed to, evaporate what I thought it was going to be. I remember telling my therapist one time, I don't think I can get over, like Tuesdays would come and I'd have PTSD. February 18th came and I was like, what am I waiting for? What's going to happen? And he's like, yeah, that'll dissipate. And maybe you'll use it as a celebration point,
Oh,
and
I like that.
yeah.
Yes, it takes time to detach from the emotions of that specific moment when we feel that hurt, the betrayal, and it is a process. And I can think of times where betrayal can be also from a friend, in a friend relationship or a family member. The steps may be similar as to, wasn't I good enough for this relationship?
Yes.
What did I do to deserve such a treatment? And in my personal experience, it comes down to what is really at the root of this?
Mm,
What escalated to this point? What are
right.
some of the things that brought us to this specific moment in our relationship that caused that hurt, the betrayal, that caused that moment of breaking the trust?
Yes.
And I think that's the difficult aspect, at least for me, is how do you regain trust? Not necessarily in that person. Hopefully, yes, in that
Hmm.
person. But if that doesn't happen, how do you move forward? I heard you
Mm.
mentioning your fiance. So obviously, you were able to go through the whole process and regenerate and find a new life for yourself. What would you share with people who are still struggling in the midst of that process, of that crisis? This is where your crisis strategist comes through.
Yeah. I mean, the crisis is real, right? The not knowing, if you're in the midst of it, the not knowing if you could trust somebody again, um, what really begins to take shape as you begin to deal with what I call in one of my pillars is like extreme ownership. I don't take ownership of the other person's actions, but I take ownership of my responses to
Yes.
now the new situation, right? So we find ourselves in a new situation, find yourself in a crisis. So now what do you do? Well, you begin to reimagine what life could look like for yourself, but let's focus on that trust question because it's really learning to trust your gut again. It's really learning to trust yourself again. It's really understanding that not everybody is the person who harmed you, and not everybody has ill intent. And
Mhm.
so for me, when I began to grow and begin to trust my gut, begin to trust myself again, begin to understand some of the nuances of where I could grow, I don't take responsibility for her actions. I take responsibility for my actions, my responses. And I felt that the betrayal took the best part of me and used it against me because I like being a trusting person. I like being a loving person. I like having relationships with people. I'm a very relational person. And when I was going through the crisis, I just enveloped into myself. I was like, you know what? You, yeah, you did something slight to me maybe a year ago. I'm not talking to you either. And so, like, it started like
Mm,
this whole, but I didn't like that about
yeah.
myself. And so, what I did with my therapist is he took me through a series of sessions through EMDR work. And I got to the core roots of much of my issues. And a lot of it stemmed from my dad leaving when I was 5.
Mm.
And, at that point, I didn't trust that relationships could last. I didn't trust that families didn't dissolve. So my trust issues weren't just in this relationship, but it started back then. And what this relationship did is really brought that up to the top when I was betrayed in the relationship. And
Yeah.
so what we did is we began to deal with the core issue of my dad leaving. And once I got through that, the world opened up to me. My
Yes.
relationship with my dad
Yeah.
healed. And once
Wow.
that started healing, it was the sky's the limit. And now,
Hmm.
yes, I have a fiance who's actually a travel nurse practitioner who goes for a week at a time to sites. And I have no issues with it. I'm never like calling her all the time, texting her all
Hmm.
the time, wondering what she's doing because I trust myself and I've learned to trust that I can trust her character. And so, how did that happen? I mean, it came from the EMDR work, but then also I pray the rosary. You know, I do come from more of a evangelical Catholic background. I do focus my life on Christ and what Christ has
Yes.
done.
Yes.
And he was the ultimate betrayed individual in the world. And while he was getting put on the cross, he said, Father, forgive them because
They
they're
do not
jerks,
know.
because they're, no, 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 no. He said, Father, forgive them for
Yeah.
they know not what they're doing. And I can have that understanding that when I'm being betrayed,
Mhm.
they really don't know what they're doing. And,
Yes.
but it doesn't mean I have to keep myself in that situation,
No,
right?
absolutely. Well, I love two things about this, many things, but the two that struck a chord is how rooted you were in your faith and how much that has been
Mm,
tremendously beneficial to your healing process. But also how sad to hear about your personal life story, your childhood,
mm,
but also how beautiful how going back to God, He used it to
mhm,
prepare you really and to make you stronger. And now, so able to freely say, sure, honey, you got to go for work. I'll see you when you get back and feel truly at peace in your heart
mhm.
that there's nothing to worry about being apart, you know? And that's,
100%.
yeah, and that's just a beautiful testimony to how God can work through us.
Yeah.
Hence,
And,
yeah,
and I'll tell you, Francesca, the aspect of God, I was mad. I was, and something that betrayed spouses will go through is there's a period where you do go, you run to God. Well, some do. I ran to God at first, right? Praying every morning for hours at a time, trying to get everything to work. And when prayer wasn't working and it seemed like heaven was steel to me, right? Like I couldn't get through to heaven.
yeah,
There were a couple of things along the way. One, I was so angry that I didn't want anything to do with God. I would tell him literally, just go. But the funny thing is about that, in order to be able to say go to something or someone, you have to have some level of understanding that they're there.
yeah,
And so that very fact, God was always there, and He showed Himself to me. I had a spiritual director. He's a monk that I go to for the last 10 years,
mhm,
and he really walked with me through the whole process of healing.
yes,
And when I first found out about it, and I was just devastated and sobbing. I mean, the way I look at it is like Jesus in the garden, right? Like literally, like I could have felt like drops of blood. That's how severe it was. And when he wrapped his arms around me, he's a little short Irish guy, little. And the way he hugged me, it was like God hugging me because it was a giant hug that I had never experienced. Looking back, I see that. Looking back, I see where God led me and the
mhm,
healing with my relationship
yes,
with my dad and all of that. It really is seeing the points of God along the way. But my reaction through up until actually when I had my heart attack was anger and I was holding it. And then I had my heart attack and I'm on my literally like what could be my deathbed. And I remember thinking, like, the anger is not worth it.
mm,
God just met me there. I was like, I don't want to die. I don't want to die today, not this year, not right now. I've got too much to live for. And my monk friend came up and visited me and he prayed over me and he just put his hand on me and just said, God's got other plans. And
wow.
literally, like from that point on, I was able to walk free from any anger. And that was 3 years ago. So
Wow. Oh my goodness. The father figure, right?
Indeed,
God is a father figure and he cares for us
he
with
does.
parental love that is eternal and unconditional. And he
Hmm.
always has the best in mind for us. So clearly, he had quite a travel experience for you on earth so far. Even the heart attack, my goodness, what a scare, right? And yet
Mm,
he was giving you another chance to the life he has in store for you.
indeed.
So it's
Yeah.
amazing. I forgot to ask you though, for our audience who does not know maybe enough about some of the theory, what is EMDR treatment like? What does the EMDR stand for?
Yeah. So EMDR is eye movement desensitization reprocessing. And so ultimately, it's a specialized psychotherapy that's designed to help alleviate like those distress associated and traumatic memories. And so it gets into your body, just like the movie Inside Out from Pixar. They kind of like work through that processing while you sleep. That's what it replicates. And when I went through that, it was amazing. You're in a safe environment. The therapist is specially trained for this and
Mhm.
just helps you with those rapid eye movements, and directs you, and then directs you to where you're feeling it in your body. What are the thoughts that are coming up? And then, you really do heal. And I healed tremendously from that.
Wonderful. Clearly, going through a process of healing from hurt is definitely a challenging process. And having nearby a person who can support you, a coach, is definitely a beneficial tool to have. If people who are listening might want to reach out, where could they find more information about you or reach you?
You can find me at brilliantlifecollective.com.
Mhm.
Or you can look Brilliant Life Collective without the E on TikTok. I do have a podcast as well. It's the Brilliant Life Podcast. It's on YouTube, and you can go there and everything's there. You can just click through the description and you'll see my website, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. It's all there. So, and there's on the website, you have my phone number and email address as well. So yeah, I would love to talk with anybody. And I do free consultations, 30 minutes, and would love to sit down with somebody. And if it works, it works. If not, then I can maybe guide you to some tools that you could use.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mike, for taking the time to be with us and for this precious information you shared with us, your experience. I'm really grateful.
Yeah, me too. Thank you, Francesca.
And for our audience, thank you so much for listening. And as always, breathe, smile, take care of yourself, mind, body, and spirit, and do something to soothe yourself today.